The Canadian GP turned out in complete chaos at the end as Norris attempted to take on his teammate Oscar Piastri, but failed horribly. This has resulted in major backlash throughout the team, so will this result in a major breakdown for the team synergy at McLaren? Lando Norris immediately expressed regret for letting his team down and said he was to blame for a collision with McLaren Formula One teammate Oscar Piastri, which caused the Brit to crash out of the Canadian Grand Prix. But will that be enough to restore their bond? And has Norris shown McLaren that they should prioritise Piastri as their #1 driver if Verstappen or Russell further closes the gap? On lap 67, Norris made a frantic attempt to pass the F1 title leader, but ran out of room, crashing his McLaren into the wall. Norris had no complaints, only an apology, as he limped back to the team's garage, and the event now puts him 22 points behind his adversary in the Formula One standings. "I'm sorry," he said over the team radio. "All my bad, all my fault, stupid from me." He later reaffirmed his self-criticism, saying, "I let them down like this, and when I make a fool of myself in a moment like today, I have a lot of regret." It was the end of a duel for 4th place, and despite suffering damage, Piastri was able to maintain his position. After the race, Norris explained his choice to take the inside line on the start-finish straight, explaining that he believed Piastri had allowed enough room before gently closing the door. "I don't expect to pass Oscar on the outside into turn 1, Norris was saying. "I should never have gone for it, I guess, in complete hindsight. I thought he was starting to drift a little bit to the right, so I thought I had a small opportunity to go to the left. But it was way too much risk, especially on my teammate. So, happy nothing happened to him, and I paid the price for my mistake." Norris went on to say that it was vital for him to own up to the situation, expressing his regret for letting down my team and intending to apologise to the rest of the McLaren staff. He denied that the move was motivated by anger with McLaren's underwhelming performance this season, in which neither driver reached the podium for the first time in 2025. "Our rule #1 is to not make contact with your teammate, and it's what I did. McLaren is my family. I race for them, every single weekend. I try and do well for them, more than I often try and do well for myself. That's for me always the worst feeling. So, of course, I only really need to apologise to all of them and Oscar as well. He's not going to be happy altogether with what happened. I wouldn't be either if it was the other way around, So, again, I owe him an apology for taking such a risk. He raced me fairly until that point, and close, and that's what you want. I think we didn't have the pace for pole yesterday. Oscar did a good job and good lap to get P3. Today, we were probably quicker than we were expecting, I would say, which is a big positive for us. Our race pace was very strong, and I felt like quite easily the quickest on track. So, it doesn't really matter in the end of the day when I crash. But, yes, I think we clearly always struggled more in qualifying this season than we have in the race. I think that showed again this weekend. So, yes, it's quite obvious to us that our weakness is qualifying at the minute as a team, of course, myself too. And that's what we've got to work on." McLaren immediately conducted an emergency debriefing. McLaren CEO Zak Brown has stated that he knew his drivers would make contact in the title fight somewhere. However, he would have hoped it wouldn't cost them positions like it did now. McLaren team chief Andrea Stella also acknowledged that the team will investigate the situation involving Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, but praised the latter for accepting responsibility for the mistake. Stella responded to the incident while speaking with Sky Sports F1 pit lane reporter Ted Kravitz, stating that there was no malice on Norris's part. "We never want to see a McLaren involved in an accident. And definitely, we never want to see the two McLarens touching each other," according to him. "It's something we definitely need to review because this is a very clear principle. At the same time, it's a contact that happened because of a misjudgment. Just Lando misjudged the distance to the car ahead, and therefore there was no malintent. Lando owned up immediately, took responsibility for that, but certainly something to discuss and review. Our principles are already in place. Our drivers will have something to learn further, and we go racing again." It is absolutely a misjudgment that cost Lando quite a lot in the championship. It already cost for the team, so definitely an incident that should have not happened. Responding quickly to the incident, McLaren chief Stella stated that the team would hold internal discussions on how to avoid a repeat, but he also provided support to Norris, who instantly accepted responsibility for the incident. "It's up to us as a team to show our full support to Lando," Stella said. "We will have conversations, and the conversations may be even tough, but there's no doubt over the support we give to Lando. The situation would be different if Lando would have not taken responsibility and apologized. This is just a result of a miscalculation, a misjudgment from a racing point of view, which obviously should not happen, but at the same time is part of racing. And we did appreciate the fact that Lando immediately owned the situation. He raised his hand. He took responsibility for the accident, and he apologized immediately to the team. How we react to these situations will ultimately be a very important learning point. In the coming days, we will have to go into what is needed in order to make sure that when we go racing, we preserve the margins that are required." Stella did not feel Norris's residual irritation with his disastrous qualifying session, which left him facing a return race from 7th on the grid, played a role in the incident. "I'm not sure that there is any reason to do with the fact that he might have struggled a little bit yesterday in qualifying to capitalize on his speed, a speed that he had demonstrated throughout the weekend," claimed Stella. Surely there was a bit of frustration for not having been able to qualify as he would have liked. But at the moment, I wouldn't say that that's the reason why there was a misjudgment today. I think this is too long a shot in terms of correlating these two events. But definitely there will be good conversations, but they will happen once we are all rested and calm, and we have the possibility to take all the learning and discharge what doesn't have to come with us in the future. But it didn't end just there, as his penalty was looming for Norris. After the race, Norris and Piastri were summoned to the stewards in Montreal. Despite Norris owning up to the accident, the FIA stewards opted to investigate the incident further and called Norris and Piastri to explain what happened. They were summoned on the basis of a suspected violation of Appendix L, Chapter 4, Article 2D of the International Sporting Code, specifically causing a collision. Despite Norris's retirement from the Canadian Grand Prix, the race stewards imposed a 5-second time penalty. This punishment has no influence on the race's final classification, as Norris was classified 18th after finishing more than 90% of the race. With the penalty served, the time penalty does not become a grid penalty, as it would if the British driver had not been classified. The stewards heard from the driver of Car 4, Lando Norris, the driver of Car 81, Oscar Piastri, team representatives, and video and in-car video evidence, said the stewards. Norris was attempting to overtake Piastri on the main straight. He attempted to move to the left of Piastri, but there was no space. Norris said that he thought there might be space but realized too late that there was not, and he collided with Piastri. While Norris sustained damage and retired from the race, but was nonetheless classified in the results, Piastri was not damaged. The stewards determined that Norris was solely to blame for the collision. Because the collision had no immediate and obvious sporting consequence, we imposed a 5-second post-race time penalty on Norris. Norris got off lucky there, but his gap to Piastri had now expanded to 22 points. And what's even worse, Verstappen is only 21 points behind Norris, meaning he's closer to slipping down in P3 than regaining P1. So, will Piastri be considered the confirmed first driver at McLaren from now on? Or will they let them race once more in 2 weeks' time at the Austrian Grand Prix? And will this provide more opportunities for the other drivers once again? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.